Hi, this is Ed Davis at Deering Middle School in West Warwick, Rhode Island. And what I have in front of you is a slide of the very first assignment I give my students in Gravit Designer. And I do this so that they can learn all the drawing tools. And I'm going to demonstrate how to use some of them right now. So I'm going to reduce my Google Slides. And there's the drawing from my last tutorial. I'm going to hit New Design. 600 by 800, and what I have my students do is I go to save to file, and usually what I'll have them do is save it as shapes, and I have them put their name, and we'll hit save. Okay, so the first thing I ask them to do is do a simple oval, and I really like them to use the drop-down menu up here instead of the libraries on the left. You can get the ellipse tool by just pressing E on the keyboard. So I'm going to draw a simple oval here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the fill to yellow. And then what I'm going to have them do is just simply click the border tool, select the one, and you hit enter, and you can see it will put a 1-point border on the ellipse tool. The next thing I like them to do is stay with the ellipse tool, and what they can do is hold shift. Now you can see that you get to constrain the proportions, okay, and control Z. That kind of, my finger is a little jumpy here. Here we go. What I have them do on the second shape is I have them turn it to red, and then what I ask them to do is put a 5-point border on it. So they simply have to key in 5, hit enter, and there we go. Now the next thing will be to use the rectangle tool. And what I have them do is just click and drag. I ask them to go to the next primary color, which would be blue. Okay, and I'm really right now not that concerned with the type of stroke on the blue one. However, what I ask them to do next, okay, and is hold shift and draw a square that is going to be green, but to put on that square a 10-point border. And what this just shows is that they can manipulate the shapes and draw something that if a customer you were dealing in business ask you to do something, you want to be able to draw their exact specifications. So now we get into an interesting one, and this is the star tool. What I like about the star tool on Gravit is it draws you a basic 5-point star, but when you're using the actual star tool from the drop-down menu, it gives you these nice options. I can bring the points up, okay, and I'm going to go back to 5. I can bring the size of the inside dots in and out. Okay, we're going to leave it back at around 50%. And I have some options to round up the corners. So if you use the star tool from the drop-down menu, you get to do all these cool things. If your students take the star from over here, you can see right away that you really don't get all of those cool options in manipulating the star. Now, basically, after that, it's just a matter of I want them to show me they can use the triangle tool. Triangle tool always comes in handy when I do my Halloween drawings. And put a border on that. And next I ask them to do a series of ellipses. Now what I'm going to do is go back up here, and a couple of cool things is, number one, I could actually just hit the letter E, and you can see it draws the ellipse tool. Now, there's 2 ways to duplicate this. I can just hit Control D, and as you can see, it gave me a second one, or I can use Control C, Control V, which is copy paste. Now, what I asked the students to do on the first one is to give me this nice shade of pink and go back and get rid of the stroke or border. There we go. On the second one, I asked them to go back to that pink. Okay, so we're going to click here. but then change it to a linear gradient. Okay, now you can see it goes from left to right to black, but I want them to change the black to white. And there we go. And last but not least, I asked them to go to the third one, and let's go to a nice blue now, but instead of using the linear gradient, I asked them to do a radial gradient, and again, I wanted to go from blue to white. So this gives kids good practice as far as going between the different gradients, increasing the size of the stroke, eliminating the stroke. And last but not least, I asked them to do two more things. The first one is kind of simple. Simply take the line tool, which you can hold shift, and it will give you a straight line. Okay, you can see I got a 5-point line, which is what I asked for. And last but not least, what I do is ask them is to click on the pen tool and make just kind of a jagged shape. Now, a lot of times they don't realize it. Because a lot of times you get by default a white fill, you have to go sometimes and change the fill to be transparent, to use the pen tool to draw jagged lines. Now, a lot of times they get all panicky because you can see it still wants to do the pen tool. This is a good teaching point to tell them, hit the V on the keyboard and it goes back to the selection tool. And let's see what it's doing for our fill right now. There you can see that the fill went from black, white to black. You can put it on white, but a nice way to get rid of the fill is just take the color picker and go outside the canvas and click, and as you can see now, the fill turned to be black and white checks. That shows that it's transparent. So that's our first lesson on Gravit Designer. Having my students draw all the basic shapes. It's a good time maybe when they're done to come and say, okay, you also now can click in the canvas, and you can give your canvas a nice light background. The canvas also can be a linear gradient. It can be a radial gradient. If they want to go with the linear gradient, it's a good time to say, look, you can just go from top to bottom if you don't want it left to right by just grabbing these two handles. There we go. And if you don't like the black, you can click and change it to another color. Okay, that's the basic shapes with Gravit. We're going to hit save. You could also go Control S. And to repeat what I taught you before, if we hit the E, we'll draw an ellipse. Control Z gets rid of it. We hit the R, rectangle. Control Z gets rid of it. So it's a good lesson to start showing them some keyboard shortcuts. Thanks, and I'll be back with showing you how to draw some compound shapes.